Good afternoon to everyone. It's a very tough assignment. If there's any game I don't like in football, it's back-to-back matches. I don't like them because they always tend to give indifferent results. And we are playing against a very good team. I said it even before. They may not have done well in the last two matches in the province, but they are still a very formidable team that has got a lot of good things that they do. In my opinion, probably ranked 3 or 4 amongst one of the well-coached teams in the league. They may have shortcomings here and there, but I rate them very highly. And I'm expecting a completely different game from the game we played last week. And I'm hoping that we are able to stay focused and think about this one instead of thinking about the one that has gone past, because that might hurt us. It's very important that we respect the game and we understand that we probably were fortunate, though I believe we created a lot of chances in that game. But the reality is that at 74 minutes, we were only leading 1-0. And we only got the last 3 goals in those last 15 minutes. And anything could have happened in the process. So we are going to this match with a lot of respect, with a lot of humility, and also with an understanding that we must not play the occasion, but we must play the match. And not think, I love Esaba Shula last week, because it will not work like that. Each match stands on its own, and history in football does not mean anything.
Thank you, Coach. We'll take the first question from the floor. Okay,
Coach, Gauteng have never lost to Marumo Gallants. How does that give you an advantage? You just spoke about that, you beat them 4-0 and you don't like to play them back to back. But having that history, you have never lost to them ever before. How does that help?
And probably they were not coached by the same coach before. And I was also not the coach of Golden Arrows in some of those matches. So the reality is that, like I just said, history in football is not the most important. What is more important is how you are prepared for the match that you are playing, because the history books are not inside the pitch when you play a football match. Football match is about what happens on that particular day, in that minute, in that 90 minutes, in that 120 minutes, in those penalties if it has to go to that, without any consideration of what might have happened in the past, because in the past, Golden Arrows has never played a semi-final match with Marumo. Any other match they may have played was never a semi-final match, and that's the different story. And the match temperament, the frustrations of playing such a critical match, the difference in tactics is what will determine the outcome of the game on Sunday, not what happened in the past. Which is why I have a lot of respect for this game, because it's the first game I'll be playing against Marumo in the semi-final as a Golden Arrows coach. I played against Marumo last season as a Sundowns coach and I beat them, but as a Arrows coach, I'm playing them this time around in the semi-final, and I don't know what will happen. And I have a lot of respect for that.
Thank you, Coach. Let's move on to Myron.
Coach, it's Myron here for Supersport Blitz. Twofold, Coach. What a great occasion for KwaZulu-Natal football to host these matches this weekend, but also to have 2 KZN clubs. We've seen all 4 clubs start really well in the league and then progress through in this cup. We've also seen a number of players that have come from this province go on to play for bigger clubs, do well for us here and play for Bafana. Can you talk about, where football is in the province? And then secondly, from a cup point of view, you've been involved in so many cups. Back here when you were at Arrows, during your time at Sundowns, you're probably the South African coach who who's been involved in more cup semi-finals and finals than anyone else in the league. What is it about cup football that excites you?
Do or die. No man, I think cup competitions generate a different mindset, and the match temperament is tested there, because you know when you do something where every mistake can take you out, you are playing with a completely different stress level in decisions that you take. It's very important that you know if you blunder, you might not get a second chance, and that is the only difference between a cup match and a league match. I may have lost yesterday in a league match, but I can still recover those points, because maybe in my budget I did not budget for those that I lost. I budgeted for others that I believe I should be able to win. So, but if I happen to win a game of yesterday, for instance, I know I've achieved 3 away draws, because it's a team that it's mostly unlikely for you to expect a win. But if you win it, you know at least I've got 3 away draws. But in a cup match, it's a different story. The other match does not work for another. So it's very important that you focus on what you are dealing with at that point in time. And it's a very nice experience to know that 2 KZN teams are in the semi-final. But I think it's even better if 2 KZN teams are playing the final. What, don't you think?
All right, moving on to the next question. Where's the mic? Okay, Nkululeko and then Smiso. I've noted you, Tracy.
Sawubona Mngqithi. Ngicela sishaye umndleba lo Mngqithi. Yebo. Cha Mngqithi, follow up question ka Marumo, but mina ngibuza in terms of abadlali. Kunale pressure khona la KZN yokuthi iqembu lase KZN alisayazi indondo iminyaka. Mhlambe ukuthola ukuthi mhlambe ukukhuluma nabadlali yiphi into oyikhulumayo njengamanje ukuqeda leli shobolo lokuthi amaqembu ase KZN ngisho kahle kanjani. Kunaleyo nto leyo ukuthi awafinyeleli we-finishing line compared to other provinces amaqembu lawo ekuthiwa mancane kuma-province. Nokuthi mhlambe kule stage esikusona njenge-KZN football, mhlambe ikuphi ekufanele sikwenze ukumaintaina le success noma le happiness ekhona amaqembu aKwaZulu-Natal, ne progress esibonana kubadlali abaqhamuka kwi-development.
Ngiyawuzwa umbuzo wakho, kodwa nguhlobo nje lomqeqeshi olungathanda ukukhuluma ngeindondo zingakafiki. Ngihlezi ngiphusha into eyodwa kuma players ukuthi kufanele sifocus at what we are doing at that point in time. Training session kimina important is to get your wins in the objectives ey'nhlosweni besinazo the training session. Be it a friendly match, I want nginama-goals engiwasethile for ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi sibone ukuthi siyayi-achieve nale nto esifuna ukuyi-achieve kuleyo friendly match, and every match siyidlala sinomqondo wokuthi nazi izinto esifuna ukuzibona ukuthi siyenzeka na, and I try to streamline these things, maybe zibe 3 in every match ukuthi I just want to see maybe counter pressure, I just want to see the involvement of the 8s in the half spaces. I want to see balls played between the fullbacks and the centre back. Maybe I want to see balls being played in between the centre backs. And when I achieve those small little goals that I've set for the team, I know the next match my focus will be on something else. Because I want to ngaso sonke isikhathi abadlali bami ngibafundise ukuba nama focal points. Bangafuni ukwenza into eyiningi ngesikhathi esisodwa ngoba abaningi babo phela ababahlanga la esikoleni. So mawufaka into eyiningi bengaphumi nokugodwa. Kanti mangaba uhamba nabo step by step, esikhathini esiningi uyakwazi ukugcina uthola izinto eyiningi nezinhle abadlali nabo bekade bengathenjwa umuntu, because bayazi ukuthi kufanele babhekane no-1 no-2 no-3, and kulo 1 no-2 no-3 in kuma roles wabo mabe achieve those small milestones, bayakwazi ukubona ukuthi angathi iyakhula lento yami baqale bafuna okunye mhlawumbe i-match ne-match. So i-province yethu njengamanje ngibona ngazuthi is on the right track, because i-province yethu over the years has been a dumping site. You know, all the old players that are no longer useful somewhere, they become useful here. Manje, i-province yethu is beginning to produce its own younger, hungry, energetic, willing players. And leyo into uyayibona kwi-Richards Bay, uyayibona kumaZulu, uyayibona kwi-Durban City, and ngicabanga ukuthi kuzosisiza nokuthi sizakhele okwethu esicabanga ukuthi ngingasisebenzela. And mangibuka indlela wonke lamaqembu engiwabalayo adlala ngayo, yenza ube nethemba lokuthi mhlawumbe sizokwazi nokuthi sike sibe nabadlali ku-national team, because enye isizathu esenza ukuthi singabi nabadlali ku-national team ingoba sidlala ngabadlali abadala asebadlala mhlawumbe ku-national team baphelelwa isikhathi. Kodwa mangaba sinabadlali abancane abanohlonze, sizibeke emathubeni ukuthi nathi siyi-province sibe represented within the national teams. Angikhumbula ukuthi kwakuyinini iqembu elifana neGolden Arrows line-player kwi-national team, and manje mangibona ukhona uPoison kwi-under 17 doing well for the national team, ngithi what can we get kwi-under 23, and kunama-players amaningi engiwabonayo both kwi-Richards Bay, amaZulu, i-Arrows, i-Durban City aqualifya ukudlala kwi-under 23 ne-under 20. Then you go for the senior national team. Mangibuka abadlali balamaqembu abaningi abancane, uyabona ukuthi inhlaso yokuthi singaba represented within the national teams, then we can start to dream, because as a small team kufanele ube nezinto ezima-target points. One, players in the national teams, the market value of your players improves. Two, you must be able to sell some players in order to sustain the business. Three, you must look to try and win trophies if you've got such quality that can play for the national teams. Then singaqala ke manje sibe nama-dreams abonakalayo, sibona ngathi khona into esizoyenza in the next year or 2 or 3 after that, because these boys are younger. Masingezubafaka under pressure abaqeqeshi, singezufaka under pressure iy'ngane, ngicabanga ukuthi singakwazi ukuwa-achieve wonke la ma-goals.
Smiso.
Good afternoon, Coach. I'm good. Coach, progress here, Golden Arrows this season has coincided with, both on and off the pitch. We see what's happening with the club in terms of social media and everything that's going on there. And probably there's a lot of players in your squad that are getting attention that they're not used to, and more especially on social media. And we know most players are on social media. Have you felt a need to be able to control the type of attention that they are getting, which would, in a sense, coincide with the regular demands that you have, and more especially going into a cup semi-final, the first one in a very long time for the club?
I must say it's a good thing what is happening with the club, to catch the interest of a lot of people within the social media space. I'm not in that space, but I can hear and see and feel. But at the same time, there's potential for negative things to pitch within that space. But I always try not to focus on what I can't control, and focus on what I can control, because whoever is in another space must also look to control what can be controlled there. But I try to advise my players problems, because this is what they were saying. I'll give you an example. When players start to talk about the finals, when you have not played the semi-final, then it's a problem for me, because it means now you are getting ahead of yourself, and now you will be disappointed if you don't arrive there. But rather, if you can focus on giving everything to make sure that you are able to arrive to the final, then you will have an opportunity to talk about the final when you are in the final. And because that's the biggest mistake you can make. And the worst part is the successes that, the smaller Nyana successes that they've had of winning a league match against Marumo, the manner they won it, because now, to some of them, because they've never tasted this thing, even winning back-to-back matches is something that most of them are not accustomed to. So it's very important now to try and clamp down on the big hits that you are beginning to see, so that they focus at the job at hand, which is something we never really suffered with before, because when you are struggling, you appreciate every result. But when you start to think you are stable, you start to think, man, we can go through that game. And that's my biggest worry. And that's why I'm saying the game against Marumo, to me, requires a little bit more in preparation of the mind, tactics, and the technical execution, because if they are over-anxious or overconfident, they are most likely to make the kind of mistakes that you saw yesterday. Yesterday, we lost far too many balls, and that was not like us. And most of the players that did that, the players that have been doing well all along, is it possible that maybe they got ahead of themselves? They started to think about the match that they are not playing, and instead of focusing on the one that was in front of them. So those are small little things that induce a little bit more pressure now on the team, because they have to live up to what they are saying in the social media, or what people are saying about them in the social media. And most of them are young and they've never experienced this, and there's a bit of issues in that space. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, we're moving on to the embargoed session. We're wrapping up.
That's a moment. But Coach, I know how much you believe in KZN talent, and having two teams from KZN reaching the semi-finals in a cup final. We last won 2009, Golden Arrows, with the different cups. So how much important for a KZN team to win this cup? And also, winner either you or Richards Bay will be the start of something special in KZN, especially as nama teams are participating with top flights. And also a message yako to abantu base KZN ikakhulukazi aba-attend football, because unakho lokho ukuthi i-Golden Arrows masithi sayibona njengoba kade esho uNkule ukuthi no uSimiso ukuthi i-social media as well as i-Golden Arrows lento yokusebenzisana inako ukuletha ama-fans e-stadium. But i-message ongayisho kubalandeli, because siyabona ukuthi abakafiki kule level esifisayo, just to compare with eBloemfontein, siyabona iBloemfontein ine-team yakhona, but i-support inalokuthi support i-team yale KZN ase-Bloemfontein, whereby i-KZN ayikakwenzi lokho, they more into Gauteng teams.
I think I will only have one thing to say there. My biggest wish is to see the people of KZN developing an element of patriotism towards KZN, not necessarily towards particular teams. I'm looking in the stands when I'm watching the games and doing analysis, and I see my poor people so happy that somebody from outside is doing well in their backyard, saying, I mean really, because it's very important to have the mentality to say, in as much as I support A, B, C, D, and I, but I cannot support you when you are fighting against my family. My family comes first, and that's normal procedure in life, where charity begins at home. And it's the feeling that I think the people of Bloemfontein have entrenched within themselves, and we must give credit to what Celtics maybe did for the people of Bloemfontein, because in them, whoever is playing in Bloemfontein, he is their team, regardless. And that is the mentality that now when I look at KZN having 4 teams in the Premier League, I'm saying maybe we are getting closer and closer to having a KZN team that can win the championship. You may think it's a dream, but you will see it will happen one day. So we just need people from KZN to start supporting our teams for that. Because that brings a lot of sponsorship for the teams in the province. That brings a lot of matches in the province. And when that happens, it means the supporters will get to be spoiled with a lot of football within the province. But when we are not supported, one gets relegated, we're 3, we are 2, we are 1. There was a stage where it was only Golden Arrows in the PSL. I was the coach of Arrows at that time. And I know how difficult it was for us to always have away matches and very few home matches. But now I know in KZN, I'm budgeting a nice 6 matches on the league. In these 6 matches, against Tamazulu, against Richards Bay, and against Devon City, you already have something you can gather that can save you from relegation, that can put you in the top 8, that can put you in the top 4, or that can even take you towards winning the championship, which is what has been happening with Gauteng teams. So my wish is that people of KZN can just start to see football in that perspective. And I'm not saying they should leave their teams, but when you are playing in KZN, let's make KZN so uncomfortable for someone from outside. And it starts from now, where we are going to possibly have 2 KZN teams in the final. Why not? You know, and it's possible. This is football, eh?
All right, okay. Robin, Joe, quick one.
Just a quick one. Any latest with Lunga Nongusa? I mean, a couple of weeks ago when you attended the media day, he was training and he spoke to us, but how far is it to be back?
No, when it's close, he had a setback. He was tackled, not necessarily re-injuring himself in the same space, and that took him backwards a little bit, but he's very close. I want to believe very soon he will be playing for us.
Okay, I think this will be the last one.
Good afternoon, Coach. Samuel Obiela from Far Post. Coach, earlier you spoke about the pressures that come from the social media hype and the players perhaps shifting their mentality. And last night after the game, we spoke to Uskwishi.
No, you can continue.
Yes, we spoke to Uskwishi last night, Coach, and he mentioned how you've played an integral role in his improvement this season. And if you look at games like yesterday, where it wasn't the best day in the office for him, how do you make sure that he maintains being at the heights of his heights and especially building up to such an important game this Saturday, with him being essentially the talk of the town right now as the player of the month as well?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because he's a young boy. And sometimes young boys must be allowed to grow without putting a lot of pressure on them, because the least they give us, we must appreciate and work very hard in trying to improve their level of consistency, because younger players naturally would not be as consistent. And I think he has really done well in that regard. And for him not to perform to the level that we want him to be, what would kill him is for us to be harsh, because we must still expect him to have games where he's not where we expect him to be, though we must drive the narrative of trying to make sure that at any given opportunity he operates at the highest level, because now he's somebody that I see as the future of the national team. I'm sorry to say it might not sound right, but in my opinion, he's one of the greatest talents in the country, and I've worked with a lot of talented players in my career. And if I don't appreciate this one, I will be stupid. Because in my opinion, he plays better than many so-called big players in the country. He is a very good football player. Technically, his application is very good. Tactically, his application is very good. Physically, his application is very good. And is one of those players that has got physical metrics that will scale. And that, for me, is something that must always be taken into consideration, because not many players work as hard as he does. Not many players are as productive as he is in a football match. Even yesterday, you will say he did not perform to his best level, but he had so many involvements on a bad day at the office. So on a good day at the office, you know what you can get. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach. All the best on Sunday.
Thank you.